polymath is someone who has real expertise in multiple different fields. Think Leonardo da Vinci, art, engineering, anatomy. Or in modern times, people like Johnny Kim, Navy SEAL, doctor, astronaut. Most people will tell you to become a polymath by reading a lot, following your curiosity, and just connecting ideas from different fields. But that advice doesn't actually work. Your brain doesn't naturally connect knowledge from different areas. In this video, I'll show you the 4 things you actually need to do. Go deep in one field first, use comparison to connect different fields, learn by struggling before studying. Let's start with why going deep matters. Here's the biggest mistake people make. They think being a polymath means learning a little bit about everything. So they spend 3 months on guitar, then switch to Spanish, then try graphic design, then move to something else. This is completely backwards. There's a huge difference between a polymath and someone who just dabbles in stuff. A polymath has real expertise in multiple fields. A dabbler has surface knowledge in multiple fields. That difference matters a lot. Here's why. When you actually get good at something, you're not just remembering facts, you're building patterns in your brain. These patterns let you see situations and instantly know what to do. A chess master looks at the board and sees patterns immediately. They don't think through every single move. A good programmer sees a bug and knows exactly where to look. This is real expertise. But here's the important part. Most of what makes you an expert can't be taught with words. If you ask an expert how they do what they do, they usually can't explain it well. They'll say things like, you just get a feel for it. This isn't them being unhelpful. That's just how expertise works. You develop intuition that's hard to put into words. So why does this matter for polymaths? When you go deep in one field, you learn something crucial. You learn what mastery actually feels like. You learn how to develop that intuition. You learn how to spot patterns. Most importantly, you learn how to learn. And that's what transfers to your next field. Look at Johnny Kim. He didn't try to be a SEAL, doctor, and astronaut at the same time. First, he became an elite Navy SEAL, completed over 100 combat missions, complete mastery. Then he used that foundation, the discipline, the learning ability, the pattern recognition, to go through Harvard Medical School faster. Then he used both of those experiences to excel in astronaut training, each field built on the depth of the one before it. So here's what you need to do. Spend real time building real expertise in your first field. Not I read some books knowledge. Real expertise, where you can feel when something's right or wrong, where you have intuition. This feels slow. You might think, I'm not being a polymath yet, but you're building the foundation that will let you learn your second field way faster, about 40% faster, because you already know what expertise feels like. You recognize the stages of learning, you know how to push through hard parts. This separates real polymaths from people who just collect hobbies. Once you have depth, the next challenge is getting knowledge from one field to help you in another field. Your brain doesn't do this automatically. You have to force it. That's what we're covering next. Let me tell you about a study that completely changed how companies think about innovation. Researchers at 3M, the company that makes Post-it notes and thousands of other products, wanted to figure out who their best inventors were. They looked at all their patents and tracked the actual commercial impact each inventor made. They found 3 types of inventors. First, specialists, people who went super deep in one specific technology area. They had tons of patents, but all in the same narrow field. Second, generalists, people who worked across many different technology areas but never went deep in any of them. Both specialists and generalists made contributions, but neither was amazing. Then they found a third type they called polymaths. These people had depth in one core area, but they also worked across dozens of different technology classes, way more than the generalists. Here's what shocked them. The polymaths were the only ones who could create innovations that were both technically solid and commercially successful. The specialists made good tech that nobody bought. The generalists made lots of ideas that weren't technically sound. Only the polymaths bridged both. Why? Because polymaths were doing something the others weren't. They were constantly comparing patterns across different fields. When you only know one field deeply, you see problems through that one lens. When you know many fields shallowly, you can't solve complex problems. But when you know one field deeply and have worked across many others, you can take a pattern from field A and apply it to solve a problem in field B. This is the secret weapon of polymaths. They're pattern matchers across domains. Think about Tim Ferriss. He learns languages, physical skills, and business fast. He uses the same framework for everything. He calls it DISSS, deconstruct, select, sequence, stakes. Same pattern, totally different fields. He made this framework by comparing how he learned different skills and finding what was the same across all of them. Here's how you do this. Every time you learn something new, immediately find 2 to 3 examples from completely different areas that use the same idea. And I mean completely different. Don't pick similar examples. Force yourself to connect totally different fields. Example, let's say you learn about feedback loops in business. progress. Now find feedback loops in climate science, in your relationships, and in machine learning. Write down what matches up and why the pattern is the same. Your brain builds connections between fields instead of keeping them separate. Now this comparison method is powerful, but there's something even better that seems totally backwards, and that's what we're looking at next. This is going to sound crazy, but the evidence is really strong. What if the best way to learn something is to try and fail at it before anyone teaches you how? Like, imagine trying to solve math problems before learning the formulas, or trying to speak Spanish before studying grammar. Sounds dumb, right? You'll just fail and feel bad. Except that's not what happens. There's something called productive failure that scientists have studied a lot. One researcher ran 53 different studies with thousands of students. Here's what they found. Students who struggled with hard problems before getting taught did way better than students who just studied first. How much better? About 13 percentage points better on tests. And this lasted. They were still doing better 7 weeks later. Even crazier, this struggling can work nearly twice as well as a good teacher. Why does this work? When you struggle and fail, your brain becomes super aware of what you don't know. It creates gaps in your knowledge that your brain wants to fill. When the teaching finally comes, your brain is actively looking for the missing pieces. You're not just passively listening, you're hunting for answers. Think about it. Have you ever struggled with a problem for hours, been completely stuck, and then someone shows you the solution? You never forget that solution. It clicks in a way it wouldn't if they just showed you first. This is huge for polymaths because it helps knowledge transfer between fields. Remember how knowledge doesn't naturally jump between fields? Struggling creates the hooks that make it possible. There's another version that's even weirder. Taking a test on stuff you haven't learned yet. Sounds stupid, right? Why test yourself on something you don't know? But one study showed students who took practice tests before studying did 49% better than normal students, almost 50% better, just by testing themselves on stuff they hadn't seen yet. Same reason. Making mistakes on the test turns on curiosity in your brain. When the real content comes, your brain knows exactly what to look for. This connects to something called desirable difficulties, things that make learning harder during practice, but actually make you remember better long term. Here are 3 that help polymaths. First, interleaving. Instead of practicing one skill until you're good, mix different skills in the same practice session. So if you're learning music, don't practice scales for an hour, then chords for an hour. Mix them up. Scales, then chords, then rhythm, then back to scales. Second, spacing. Spread your learning over days and weeks instead of cramming. The gaps between sessions force your brain to remember things, which makes the memory stronger. And here's the key. This forces you to remember stuff in different situations. This automatically helps with transfer. Third, try to answer before learning. Try to solve problems or explain things before you see the right answer. Even when you're wrong, trying first helps you learn better when you finally see the correct version. Let's recap with what you actually need to do. First, go deep before going wide. Spend real time building real expertise in one field, not surface knowledge, actual pattern recognition, and feel for it. Second, use comparison. Every time you learn something, immediately find 2 to 3 examples from completely different fields that use the same idea. Third, embrace struggling. Test yourself before learning. Struggle with problems before seeing answers. Now, actually executing this consistently requires high performance habits. If you want the discipline and systems to make this happen, check out my last video on how to become a high performer. Click here to watch it.